All right, I'm going to make this PSA because everybody has an elderly friend or neighbor or parent, or they know someone that doesn't exactly understand things. They don't maybe have their wits about them, or they're just, they were told to trust people. And nowadays you can't trust everyone. So the first thing is when someone comes to your door, unless it's a family member or friend or someone you recognize from your neighborhood, etc., just don't answer it. Don't answer it unless you are assertive. Why? Because these people that come soliciting, knocking on the doors, doing door-to-door sales, which are supposed to be illegal in some places, they are getting braver and braver. I have 2 trespass signs on my property. And one is right at the front door, right on the screen door, so that they know right away that even if they've made it to the doorstep, they're not welcome here. But they figure they're doing something that they need to do, and the sign doesn't mean nothing to them. Let me just put that way. And so, on occasion that happens, I'll go to the door and I'll see it's a salesperson. And, depending on the mood I'm in and which personality is coming up, I may or may not be rude and aggressive towards them, but, I will say, I'm not interested. I'm not interested. I don't care what it is you got for $4.02 or a penny. I don't want any of your services. I'm certainly not going to order anything through the door. Why? Because they want to know what in utility service, what companies you're with, and they want to know your personal information. I don't know. We had a cell phone lady come around the other day. I don't know if she works for the cell phone company, but she's getting all of my information if I give it to her, right? She's going to have my name, my address, my cell phone number, the company that I go with, and she could very easily call the company that I'm with and pretend that she's me because she has enough information, including my birth date. So I'm not going to give any of my information to anyone. If it is the actual true utility company, like say the gas company, and a guy comes to the door with a badge, right? I'm going to think, oh, that's the real gas company. No, I'm going to call the gas company and I'm going to say, hey, did you send a guy out here for an emergency or to do this or to that? Because most times they're going to alert you by paper, by letter or some sort of announcement that they need to do work in your area. So anyways, getting back to what I was saying before about the services, the one guy came to my door and I opened it. I thought it was one of my son's friends. Right from the get-go, I thought it was a friend of them. So of course I opened the door and he starts going on about this and that, about, and what company are you with now? None of your damn business. And when I said, I am not interested, he put his foot in the door as I went to shut it. And luckily I had a number of guests here at that time, so I wasn't fearing for anything. But he put his foot in the door and I said, what are you doing? Get back away. I'm not interested. Get away. And he backed up and I closed the door, locked it obviously, and he's still standing outside the door saying, you don't want to get a good deal? You're not interested in getting a good deal? Buddy, I just had to tell you to remove your foot out of my door, and I've locked it, and I'm not conversating with you any further, and you are still outside my door, yammering on. And I was at that point, just at that cusp, where I was like, I might have to call the authorities, because I've closed the door. I clearly do not want to communicate with him anymore, and he is still out there yammering on. So, and then a while back, this was about 10 years ago, my elderly relative was at home, and this is when they posed as I think it was the electric company or the gas company, one or the other. The person at the door posed, and they need to come in because they need to check the equipment, right? So my elderly relative let them in. They checked the equipment, which was in a basement at that, which is very dangerous. Imagine letting someone in you don't know, and they're in their basement, right? And of course they come up, and what do they say? It's a scam. They said, your equipment is old, it's needs to be refurbished, needs to be replaced, and we're offering a deal right now. If you decide today that you want to have it replaced, we're going to give you 20% off or something. So what did my relative think? Oh, that's a good deal, and I need to have it replaced because it's bad. It's real bad, even though there was absolutely nothing wrong with it. So they signed that they wanted to have it replaced, and depending on where again you live, where they lived, they had 10 days to what's the word, dispute, or to say that they didn't want it, to cancel the service. So luckily they were saved by that little clause. But like, that's why it's so important to check in with your elderly relatives or neighbors or whoever, because this could happen. They could just say, well, the electric company's here, or the gas company's here, or the water company's here, so I let them in. Why not? There's nothing wrong in that. They work for the company. How do you know? You can't verify the thing. I don't know what kind of ID they have or if they printed it up off the internet. So you have to be very careful. And the other thing, my neighbor was just caught in this, which again, I've known so many people that have caught in this, including my own self. The bank calls you and it comes up your bank on your phone. Well, it must be the bank. And they ask you for all sorts of information. And of course, you give it to them because they're your bank. Well, they're not your bank. And one of the scams running right now is the bank will call you. And again, it shows up on your phone as the bank, but it's a fraud. It's a scam. And they say, we need your PIN numbers and your cards in an envelope, and we're going to send a courier out to get them. Well, you can't be that gullible. The bank doesn't need your pins or your cards. If something is wrong, you go directly into your bank. And even them right now, they just charged a couple of ex-bank employees or even current bank employees with some high-level fraud shit. So, pardon for the swear. So, if you get a call from your bank, first of all, don't even acknowledge that they are your bank, because just knowing what bank you deal with is enough for the person to be able to facilitate a fraud, okay? Because my neighbors don't know what bank I use, but if they did, you know, they could start building information about me, and, you know, then they know my birth date, they know my bank I deal with, they know my name, they know, you know, little bits about you. You can glue that all together and you can facilitate identity theft. So anyways, if say your bank calls you, it says on your phone that's your bank, okay? Don't acknowledge that you have an account with them. So if they say this is Bullseye Bank, your account has been compromised and we need your cards and pins in an envelope, then you say, well, I'm not sure if I deal with your bank, but I will go into the branch and check on this myself. And then they'll say, if they're a scammer, they're going to say, oh no, you don't need to do that, sir. We're going to send the police to your house because you've committed fraud or something like that. There's fraudulent activity. They'll scare you. They use scare tactics. They'll say, we're sending this person. You're going to be arrested if you don't send us $4,000 in gift cards immediately. Send them then. Send the authorities, because I haven't done anything wrong. And I know you're a scammer. And if it was a serious matter, I would have been alerted by the authorities, or I would have been sent some sort of registered mail of sorts, or something would be going on, not someone phoning me and telling me to send them $4,000 in iTunes gift cards. And then the next one is the jewelry thing. First of all, I'm fine. I don't want to not conversate with strangers. I don't want to live in that paranoia world where I don't talk to people at all because they're strangers. I don't want to, but you kind of gauge a person is safe or not safe when you meet them and talk to them. But people are going up to elderly people and even not elderly people, and they're doing the necklace thing. They're saying, I don't have money for gas. Would you be able to give me $20 if I give you this real gold necklace? And then they put it on the person, and as they're doing that, they unlatch that person's real gold necklace and steal it. They steal their jewelry. That is, I would never let a stranger touch my neck. And now they could put DRUGSs on their nails or their whatever, and they can rub it on your skin and you could pass out. So don't let anyone touch you. No one should be. A lady opened her door to a criminal, and they did the same thing. They took off her good necklace and they put on a fake one, and she didn't even notice. At that any given time, they could put something on your skin and render you helpless. Don't let anyone touch you or grab your hand or even shake your hand. Just say no. You know, blame it on that weird virus thing. Just say, oh, I don't want to do that because I'm contagious, or I don't want to get it, or whatever. I'm a germaphobe, or I got OCD. Don't shake my hand. What else was the other one? Oh, I'm not going to say who it was. Someone that I'm possibly related to, not blood, but I got to teach them the ways of this world, because they told me, they were like, oh, I was a little bit late because I had an encounter in the parking lot. And I said, what? An encounter in the parking lot? Yeah, some guy approached me and he needed money, and he wanted me to send him e-transfer or PayPal or whatever they call that, Cash App him some money. And I said, what? And she said, yeah, it went on for like 10 minutes. He wouldn't leave me alone. No, get away, because first of all, a van could pull up in that parking lot and kidnap you. Number two, you're not PayPaling anyone or Cash Apping anyone that you do not know personally, because that is, again, it's a way for them to facilitate identity theft and fraud. And number three, just don't give them the time of day, because they're dangerous. No one should be approaching you in a parking lot. You're vulnerable. They could be trying to steal your car. Anything. They could pull out a pew-pew, put it right here at your belly, and tell you to get in the passenger side or in the driver's seat and drive them to such and such a place, because they've maybe already committed a crime somewhere else. Anyone approaching you in the parking lot is a red flag right away, because again, you're just about to get into your vehicle. And all this, it's, yes, you can have a conversation, you can be friendly with people, but you usually know that they're not right. The other thing is the taxi scam. The taxi drivers, some of them around here, are already asking for cash in place of payment, debit card payment or whatever, credit card payment, because they're laundering the money essentially. They want cash. They don't want anything. But if someone comes up to you and they're like, oh, I tried to pay for this cab, and they won't take my debit card, or they won't take cash, and they take your debit card, right? You say, oh, well, that's okay. You can use my debit card. I'll pay for your thing. And you give me the $20 and use my debit card. When you give them your debit card, they skim your card or even steal your card and replace it with another card. So that's another thing. Like I said to my kids, I love to be helpful and give and stuff like that. But, you know, it'll be the greatest actors that'll come up to you. Oh, can you help me? I can't pay for my cab ride. And he's going to call the authorities if I don't pay for it. Can you pay with your debit card or credit card, and I'll give you the cash? And you do that, and again, they'll skim it or take it. You have to be aware. But again, number one thing, don't let anyone near you. You know, don't let them get in your space, your personal space. Number two, just be assertive. Just say no, thank you. And if they keep yammering on and keep conversating with you, just say no, thank you, no, thank you. We've been taught to be very, what is the word? Like submissive, like in schools and things like that. We're taught just to be, oh, be polite, be nice to people, don't be rude. And it backfired on our society, because now we're just we give people too much time of the day. And I'll tell you this one thing. When I was living in an apartment, okay, this guy came around and he was selling magazine subscriptions. Now, I come from a long line of family members that love their magazines, their Reader's Digest and all that other stuff. And I had actually sold magazine subscriptions before in my lifetime too. So this guy comes to my door And he's like, I'm selling these magazine subscriptions. It's some ridiculous amount. 3 magazine subscriptions for just say $20 a month or whatever. I said, I'm not interested. And he goes, well, let me finish. I'm going to give you a deal. And he goes on, and he says, just look at this here. Do you read any of these magazines? And I said, yeah, I read these, that. At this point, I was just conversating because it was just one of those days. I didn't mind wasting my own time. So I said, yeah, I read this one, this one. He goes, well, how about this? Everybody, I don't usually give this deal, but I'm going to give you 20% off or something like that, right? And I'm like, yeah, no, like it's not in my budget. I just had a baby, blah, 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 blah. And you know what he said to me? I'll never forget this. You know what he said to me? He goes, well, a lot of your neighbors have bought these subscriptions today. I've been up to the 3rd floor, 2nd floor, whatever, 4th floor, and a lot of them. And we like to have it. We like to see all the neighbors participate. And I said, what? He said, we like to see that all the neighbors are participating. Your neighbors like to see that you are, joining in with them in supporting our company. What in the hell does that have to do with me, sir? What in the hell do my neighbors have to do with me when it comes to paying my bills? And I said, I mean, that doesn't really pertain to me. I said, I'm just going to go. I'm going to tell you to move along because I'm not interested in buying a magazine subscription today. Bye. And I shut the door. And I never forgot that. I thought, does that line really work on people? It must, otherwise you wouldn't have used it. Where they say, well, everybody else is doing it, so you should sign up too. I'll never forget that. But those type of tactics, believe it or not, maybe you're not as gullible, but believe it or not, those tactics work on people. Where you say, well, other people are doing it. Your friends are doing it. Your neighbors all signed up for this lawn service. So, you don't want to stand out in the crowd. You want to, match everyone's lawns. You don't want to be the one with dandelions growing on your lawn. And that was another thing, just as I remember. My son, I have to explain things to him because, they're at the age where they are just learning about the household things, how to run the household, right? They're mature and they're responsible and all those good things. But when it comes to running the household, that's another, because one day I'm going to be going to travel and they're going to be here left alone. Party. But anyways, so there was a knock at the door and I said, I'm going to let my son answer it. I said, gave him a word of caution because I've tried this before with them, telling them what they need to do if someone comes to the door. So I hear the knock at the door. I said, this is going to be a dry run. I'm going to let my son handle this, right? So I hear this guy at the door, and I'm just sitting here. I listen. My son says, yeah, and he goes, the guy goes, I'm from a lawn care company, and if you sign up for our services today, we're going to give you 50% off or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And my son says, I'm not interested. All right, check mark, good job. And then I hear the guy going on. He goes, well, if you give me your personal information today, I'll get my boss to call you and maybe he can offer you a better deal. Now, I don't know why my son decided because we are never paying for lawn care services. We can seed and weed our own grass. We are never paying for that, such a thing. And I hear my son goes, oh, yeah, okay. I'll give you my personal information. Well, that's when I jumped out of the chair and I said, oh, whoa. No, because you know what's going to happen. You're going to give him your information. He's in turn going to sign you up for the services. The next thing you know, I got 5 landscapers on my lawn doing services that I don't want to pay for. But that's the scam of that. They'll say, oh, I'll get, just give me your information and we'll call you with this better deal. No, they sign you up for the service and you're on the hook for it. And he was about to do that. And I said, I'm not mad at you, but you've got a long way to go. I said, never give them your information, never sign anything, and don't engage. Just say, no, thank you, bye. Or just, how's about this? If you are one of those people that just get nervous around other people and you do things on a whim, just don't answer the door then. Just don't answer the door. If it is an emergency, you will know, because you'll see all your neighbors out on their lawns freaking out or whatever, or one of your neighbors will come out and say, the gas company's telling us all to evacuate. You know what I mean? Do not answer your door. If you are that gullible and naive and scared of people that you're going to end up signing up for something that you can't afford, then just don't answer the door. If you don't know them, and especially if you're a person like me, my memory's kind of going all over the place, then just don't answer the door. Just on the safe side, just don't answer the door. But you have to protect yourself. And right now, I'm not going to say why, but there is an increase in the scamming. There is an increase. I've seen it, and I'm hearing about it more often. There is a huge increase. People are getting more desperate. So the scams are coming out in full mode. Like when I used to travel and go from place to place, in the gas stations, I'm not going to say the type of people, but there was a type of people that would run that jewelry scam where they'd say, I just need $20 for gas. I'll give you this 18 karat gold necklace if you give me $20. That was a huge thing, but now it's being seen in the parking lots all over around here. That used to just be a highway scam on the gas stations. Now it's all over. Same with the things in the parking lot. Once in a while, you'd get someone to say, "Hey, I'm in desperate mode. I'm traveling and I just went in and I can't even buy my daughter diapers or formula. Can you give me a couple dollars?" They'd approach you at your cars. Now it's all the time in the parking lots. So be aware and just say no. If you're a lady that's never had to speak up for herself, or a man, just practice in the mirror to say no. No, thank you. And walk away. Just walk away. They'll be yammering on. Blah, 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 blah. Just walk away and get yourself to safety. I'm telling you, get yourself pepper spray. Unless you are licensed or have one of those things that's better than a sword, get yourself pepper spray. And don't hesitate to use it. You'll deal with the consequences later. If your safety's at risk, you need to save yourself. And don't say that I didn't teach you nothing. And also, kids, adults, doesn't matter. Someone grabs you, the number one thing is don't let them get you in their car. Don't let them get you away from where you're at, because the increase in the percentages of danger, it rises as the farther you get away from the original place you were at. So grab their eyeballs, throat, down there, whatever you got to do. Do not be shy to scream and holler and do what you need to do. I don't care if they got a pew-pew to you. You don't even know if it is. They could be just pulling your leg. Do not let them remove you from a place. If you go down to the park and they grab you, scream, holler, scratch, punch, kick. Even if you cannot fight and you're just a tiny little thing that's never had to, kill a fly. Do what you need to do. Do not be afraid, because sometimes the screaming alone will cause them to run away. But I'm just telling everyone to protect themselves. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Sometimes we can try our very best and we can't prevent it, but at least give it a go. At least say that I tried my best. Bye.